federally administered tribal areas in Pakistan are home to some of the most dangerous terrorists and extremists that we face. They are a remnant of British rule and nominally governed by Pakistan through 7 tribal agencies. They sit in the mountains next to Afghanistan and were brought into existence when the British decided to split the Pashtun tribes by drawing the Durand Line. They negotiated the current border with Afghan King Abdur Rahman Khan in order to weaken the Pashtun tribes and create a buffer zone with the then Russian Empire. The tribes have always disputed this border and have been in conflict with both the Afghan and Pakistani governments ever since. When the U.S. toppled the Taliban in late 2001, many of them, as well as their al-Qaeda allies, took refuge in these tribal areas. The U.S. put extensive pressure on Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf to take action against these safe havens in both the tribal areas as well as the neighboring Northwest Frontier Province. The Pakistani military sent up to 80,000 troops into these areas, and there was pitched fighting for several years. They also held sustained bombing and artillery strike campaigns against these, killing many fighters, but also many civilians as well. This hardened the resolve of the tribes, and they fought back ferociously. Eventually, the Pakistani government decided that they could not defeat the Pashtun tribes and began negotiations that led to a series of agreements with them. The first was in 2004 with a Taliban leader known as Nek Mohammed in South Waziristan. Later in 2006, they signed another agreement with Taliban leaders in North Waziristan that was known as the Miram Shah Agreement. This called for cessation of hostilities as well as the release of 165 militants held by the Pakistani government. Later in 2007, they signed another agreement with tribal and militant leaders in Bajaur Agency that was supposed to bar them from harboring foreign fighters and to stop their attacks on the government. The government, in turn, agreed not to make arrests without consulting tribal leaders first and to cease military operations against them. These deals did not lead to security for Pakistan, as attacks on government, property, and personnel continued. They also allowed the militants to recruit, refit, and retrain in relative safety. They strengthened their own forces as well as those that had come across the border from Afghanistan. These deals were a major factor in the worsening security situation as the Taliban began re-infiltrating to Afghanistan in 2006. They used the ceasefire as a major opportunity to push back into areas that had seen little violence since their overthrow in late 2001. The current situation has the militants in Afghanistan in control of more territory than they have since they were toppled. The treaties Pakistan signed allowed the Taliban to gain strength, and they have used it on both sides of the border. Although they have lost many leaders in the tribal areas to U.S. drone attacks, the new Taliban leader in Pakistan, Hakimullah Masood, held a press conference to announce that they will continue to fight, and they will attempt to take over both Pakistan and Afghanistan. The Pakistanis have recently begun major military operations against these areas to try and regain some semblance of control. The tribes on both sides of the border represent the biggest challenge to security and peace for the region. It will take a combination of force and increased prosperity for the people to bring them to the table.